Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm sure we're having a lovely weekend, and thank you for taking our time to join the session. I mean, it's we do not take it for granted. I mean, so today we're going to be looking at we have a distinguished power addict. I've known him for quite a while, quite some time, and I mean, he's a very is sound at developing with the Power Platform environment. And like I said, so we have our speaker today. Our technical speaker today will be a person of Dakwade Diron. He'll be taking us through understanding tables and records. I mean, so when it comes to Power Apps development, tables and records are an essential part of developing an application. So for instance, I want to build like an onboarding application, for instance. I'll have to be able to store my data, I mean, data of whoever is coming on board somewhere. I have to do some kind of data manipulation. I mean, I have to create records. Those records are actually stored in tables. And so it's critical when you are building your application, you have to know about tables and records. It's critical. And so that's why we brought in our speaker for today, in person of Dakwade Duron. And firstly, he will introduce himself to us and what he does currently, and before he goes to the session proper. So Dapo, kindly come to the virtual lectern. You're welcome. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Sorry, I may not share my screen immediately, but maybe later in the course I'll share my screen. So thanks, Ibrahim. Yeah, so as Ibrahim has said, we've known each other for some time now in the Power Apps space. So I've been working with Power Platform for over 3 years now. Uh, so I worked in a multinational organization previously, where we built Power Platform solutions, that across different end markets. We built solutions that covered not just Nigeria but other West African countries. We even exported some solutions to other markets outside of Africa. Um, I've also built apps for. So typically we have situations where most of our clients, let me put it that way, then we're what we call our field force, right? Guys on our market, our trade market reps on the streets. So we built a lot of market facing apps for them, right, to use. So it was very, very important to make sure that those apps were performant, those apps were easy to use, because those guys are on the move, they're on the road, and some of them may not be in places where the internet is not good. So that taught me a lot on how to make sure that the apps that I'm building for them is working for them. So yeah, but apart from that, I have also worked as a developer. I also have web development skills. Yeah, so currently I'm with Garden Ventures. That's a company in Lagos. So I'm the DTX, that's digital transformation developer. So I lead the DTX team, dev team. So we also build Power Platform solutions. So using Power Apps, using Power Automate, using um, Dataverse, SharePoint, and the like. So yeah, it's been great. It's fantastic. I like the direction that Power Platform is going. I've even played around with Power Portals and Power Pages recently. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. I mean, you currently work with Virgin VGG, and I know it's a great place to, I mean, to have development experience as far as the Power Platform is concerned. I mean, before I would also would like to ask, I mean, so how did you come across the Power Platform? I mean, what what excites you about the platform? I mean, for those who are just joining for the first time, or those who are new to this technology, what excites you about it?
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. So Power Platform, for me, it's very exciting in terms of the fact that it's sorry, okay. Yeah, so for the fact that it's very accessible, right? To you don't have to be a actual either computer science person or a full-time programmer to be able to automate and build tools with it. I think that's very exciting. It's also exciting because you can so basically you can have a situation where as an organization you want to automate certain things, you want to build certain applications, but you can actually save a lot of costs, right, by using, because a lot of organizations already have Microsoft as their license already. They work with Office 365, so they already have this Power Platform license available to them. So you could build apps and solutions and workflows within your organization that would significantly reduce your cost if you compare to going to traditional software development companies and other clients, or the other companies rather, to do it, right? So that makes it possible, right, to build a whole ecosystem, a whole career within Power Platform, because a lot of companies are willing to look at that and take advantage of that, right? And that's very, very exciting. So there's a lot of career opportunities now, not just in Nigeria but even abroad, for this in this space, because a lot of people are beginning to look at this. That okay, and because typically for many companies, right, automation workflows are very, very central, very, very key to the way they work. They want to automate it as much as possible. At the same time, they want to save cost. So this helps them to do that, and so that's why they're looking for a lot of experts, a lot of engineers within this field, within this Power Platform field, right, to be able to build these tools for them. So that is very, very exciting. Uh, that's one of the most exciting things in platform. Now, another exciting thing is the Power Pages, which just was announced. Although they did have Power Portals, but in this Power Page, what that means now is that apart from internal tools, apart from internal workflows, right, companies can now reach out even outside of that using the same Power Platform skills, right? So you can build, for instance, can build a vendor registration system for a company, right? Because maybe a restaurant wants to work with a vendor, wants to be able to know, okay, which vendor is bringing this word and what you can actually use the Power Pages to build that. So it's not just even internal tools, even external tools can be built with this Power Platform too. So yeah, that's very exciting. Thank you.
Awesome. I mean, you can say that again. I agree with you. I mean, one of the things that excites me about the Power Platform is the ability to, the fact that it's low code, no code. I mean, it takes the number of time, I mean, the duration it takes you to build a software is extremely small. I mean, as compared to traditional software development. I mean, ability to be able to create solutions from the Power Platform in the record time is one of the beauty of it. I mean, I personally, as a person, I yes, even though I could write some lines of code, but I'm still a fan of the low code, no code. And also, if you look at the fact that the number of solutions that normal businesses need, the number of developers that the world needs, I mean, they are not enough. And so it's an opportunity to have people who can actually develop using the low code platform. I mean, because the barrier of entry is actually low. So for me, I think that's one of the beauty of this platform. I mean, so we go straight to the point. Yeah. So I mean, in previous sessions, we've designed applications, and I mean, you can always go to YouTube to find them. But today, we're just going to be looking at records and table, which are critical parts of building an application. So, Dapo, I think you take it over from here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so welcome everybody. So a great introduction by Ibrahim. So we'll be talking about tables, and I'm going to share my screen very soon. Just confirm from me if you can see my screen. Uh, okay, I think I'm out to change. Okay, just 1 minute, please.
Okay, so why Dapo is trying to share his screen, I mean, for those who are new to Power Apps, and so the Power Platform actually comprises of different aspects of it. We have the Power Apps, which you use to develop applications. We have the Power Automate, which you actually use to, automate your processes. We have Power BI for data analysis, and yeah, so you can actually check online to get all of this. All right, Dapo, I think Dapo
Okay,
is set for
so
us. Okay.
can you see my screen?
Yes, please, I can see.
Okay, guys, see my screen now. All right.
Yes, I
Okay.
can see.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right. Okay.
Yes, please go
Okay. All
ahead.
right. So understanding tables. Yeah. Yeah. Understanding tables and records. Okay. So now I think one of the things. So one of the very important is as Ibrahim has talked about. So we have Power Apps, we have Power Automate. So today we're talking of Power Apps specifically, and or more specifically, I'm talking about tables and records. So when you create Power Apps or Canvas apps, so we have three different types of Power Apps. So we are going to focus on Canvas apps. We have model-driven apps and we have Power Apps portals. But the more easy one to use, the one that is I know that it's easier to get into is Canvas app. So when you create Canvas apps, you work with data, right? You work with data from data sources, from Excel, from SharePoint, from uh, Microsoft SQL database. Sorry, can you guys confirm what you can see on the screen right now? Is it understanding tables and records? Just to confirm.
Yes, please. Yes,
Okay, all
please.
right.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So now, so a record, so now, okay, so let me go back. So basically, you are going to work with data, and data can come from several data sources. You have Excel, you have SharePoint list, you can have SQL database, right? It can come from a lot of places. And because of that, it's very, very important, very key to understand how this data work, how you can manipulate them, how you can read them, how you can write the goal you want to achieve within the app. It's very, very important and crucial. So that's the reason why I felt that this topic is very important. Now, this is not, to be honest, this is not like the most beginner topic. There are probably other topics that are much more fundamental than this. Uh, but I know there are some people that are starting their journey for the first time. There's some that have started working on Power Apps already. But for those who have started working on Power Apps already, you might have start to come across some of these concepts, and this might be an opportunity for you to understand them better, right? So now we have two major concepts to understand here, obviously from the title. So tables and records. So what's a record? So a record contains one or more categories of information about a thing, right? Basically now. So a person, place, or thing, which is the way we define now. Back then in primary, secondary school, right? So it's just it contains one or more category of information. So let's say, for instance, one category of information about me can be my name, right? So my name is a category of information. My nationality can be a category of information. My age can be a category of information. So when you have one or more categories like that of a particular thing, person, or place, that is defined as a record. So for example, a record might contain the name, email address, phone number of a customer if you want to build an application for a customer, right? So that is considered to be what a record. Now, you can refer to a record as a row or an item. So typically, where do you talk about rows? So maybe like Excel. So one of the best way to picture this is thinking about Excel, right? You know your typical Excel tables, right? So you have your row, you have your column. So that row is like it's representing a record, right? If that table is storing information about customers, so one row can be called a record. At times, we also call it an item. Now, but a table holds one or more records, right? So one or more records with the same category of information. So obviously they have to have some similar category of information that they are all holding. Those records are holding, right? So for instance, you have a table of customers, right? Or you have a table of employees, or you have a table of your office buildings if you're in an organization with more than one office, right? It could have information about the office buildings, right? So e.g. location, maybe capacity, etc. Could be, categories of information. And if you have multiple of those records, right, of or in this example of those buildings in one data table, sort of that's essentially a table, right? So that is record, that is table. Now you can read, modify, and write data to data sources using some certain functions. We'll talk about these functions more. So we have patch, we have update, we have add columns, we have a lot of them, right? So so this image here is the honest. What about going to Power Apps very soon. You are going to be, of course, working with a lot of these functions and formulas. But however, you always keep in mind, right? Just keep this image in your mind, at the back of your mind. Essentially, you will see a lot of fancy functions and code and whatever. At the end of the day, it's all down to this image. This is the most important thing. And this image is I believe it should be familiar with everybody in terms of Excel. I'm sure we've all dealt with Excel before. Is there anybody here that has not worked with Excel before? I hope there's nobody. So at least in some capacity, you've done something with Excel, even if it's just to list names of maybe your employees or anything like that. It's just simple data and structure. It's essentially the same, right? So this is very important to keep in the back of mind. Now, what do we have here? So we have, first of all, let's talk about column names. So typically, right, you'd have, if you're in Excel, you have what they call, maybe if you create a table to ask you, there's a table as an header, right? So that header part contains your column names, right? So each, so this black, basically this black line, anything that's put here is your column names. So you could have, in this example, you have name, you have price, you have quantity on hand, you have quantity on order. So these are your column names. Now, after that, you have your columns itself. So now, so your columns basically is a category of information that is common to every record in the table. So I will still go to the actual explanation very soon. So now, apart from that, you have so then you have your record, which we talked about, which is essentially a row, right? And then you have a field. So I'll go over them one by one as quickly as possible. So again, just keep this image in your head. It's a very, very simple stuff, right? And when I explain them, it's easy to remember. So each record represents at least one category of information about a person, place, or thing. We've talked about that. So at least one, will be more than one. So now talk of a little bit of code. We'll go to Power very soon. So basically, if you want to represent a record, you use, so this is what we call a curly brace. Now I think I'll try to, I don't know, highlight it a little bit. I don't know if you need to zoom in. Okay, let me zoom in just a bit. So this is what I call a curly brace. So this curly brace is typically on your keys, shifts. Okay, the other key is also a block bracket. So anyway, it's a curly brace. So in case if you're not familiar with that, so it's a curly brace. Then inside of it is the name of your column, right? Then the value it's in that column or in that record actually. Then you can also continue like that. So again, it's one or more category, right? So you could have a second one, you could have a third one, a fourth one. So I'll just give an example. So if you look at the example above, one example could be name. That's the name of, which is the name of the column. Then the value in that column. So in this case, it's strawberries, right? Then you have price, which is also a column name. Then the value in that particular cell for that record, in this case, is 799. So if we're doing for the second record in this particular picture to be name, column, then quote, bread. We'll talk about the quotes and everything later. And then comma, the price will now be 4.95, right? So that will be the way we represent that record, right? So if you want to represent that record in code, this is how it's done. So we'll still talk about that more. You don't need to know exactly everything now, but that's the basic syntax. Now, a field. So a field is an individual piece of information in a record. A field is an individual piece of information in a record. Remember, a record is a row. So a field is an individual piece of information in a record. You can visualize this sort of field as a value in a column for a particular record. So let me just break down this English. Basically, if you have an Excel, okay, let's look at this field that is there. It's essentially an intersection between this row and this column, right? So you have this row and you have this column. So this intersection is this place. So this place is now referred to as a field. Now in Excel, we call it a cell. So just think about it as a cell, basically. So particular cell. But a particular cell has essentially two properties: the record, the row which it is in, and the column which that cell is also part of, right? So that is what we now call a field. So you can see, so you can visualize this sort of field as this sort of field as a value in a column of a particular record, sort of like a cell in an Excel table. So how do you reference it? So just as with a control. So a control has the things you add to your Power App screen, right? Like your text input box, your drop down, any of those things. So just like with a control, you can refer to a field of a record by using the dot operator, right? So there's what we call operators. So dot. So basically, if you have a record, you can do dot the field name. So we'll give an example. So for example, this is first product.name. Don't worry, we'll go into the code. So first product.name basically is saying that, okay, so first product, I don't want to explain too much about this, but just to know that this place I've highlighted represents a record, right? Just know that it represents a record. Now to specify a particular cell, a particular field in that record, you now use the name of the column. So dot, name to reference the name field for the first record. Okay, so for the first record in the product table. So this returns the first record, right? This returns the first record in the product table. We'll get to all of this in terms of the code later. Now, so in case if you wanted to reference the first, the price field for the first record in the product table, we'll do first product, then open bracket, close the bracket, dot what? Price, right? So I just saying the price now, so dot price. So that's how you do that. Now, columns. So a column refers to the same field for one or more records in a table. So if you have a table now, so columns is the best to think of columns when we are talking of tables, right? So if you have a table and you are now interested in one particular field for all the records, right? So each record has all the records in the table have common fields, right? So if you are just referencing all the fields for all the records, or rather one particular field for all the records, now that is referred to as a column, right? So again, in Excel, it's very easy to think about, right? The column is just basically what's on this line here, what's on the horizontal or vertical actually, what's on the vertical. Yeah, that's a column. So a column, okay, let me just talk about, okay, so a column then reflects the fields in the column. So all values within a column are of the same data type. Okay, this is very, very important. So all values within a column are of the same data type. Now, this kind of table or this kind of data structure, we call them structured data, which is structured data. So what that means is that every value in a column of a table must be of the same type. So what are the data type? So we have data types such as string, we have number, we have what we call choice fields, which it depends on data source. If it's SharePoint list, it's called choice fields, and other data types. But the most important thing is that all of them are going to be of the same data type for a particular column. So in the above example, so quantity on hand is a number field. It's a number column rather. So all of them are all numbers. So the data type for this column is numbers, right? So that is the example there. Now you can't put a string here. So if you try to, it depends on what you define as data type. If you try to put a string here later, it will reject it, right? So that is it. So tables. So tables comprise one or more records. We've talked about that. So this is how we refer to a table. No. Find a table like this, either this code or this one, you get a data structure like this. So let me explain why I kind of put this picture. So you can create a table like very simple like this. So it's either this or this. So if you do something like this, just open a square bracket, put two values, right, without any other thing. So actually create a table, but you create a table of one column. And by default, when you create a table of one column without specifying a column name, right, it will always name it as value. to just automatically name it as value. That's the name of the that's the column name. Just by default, it's called value, right? So we don't need to worry about this code now. We'll get to that very soon. All right, so let's stop here and let's get into the code to see how we build this up. All right, so just 1 minute. So let me put this on the screen. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, good. So this is Power Apps. So interestingly enough, so I have a very blank blank app, very blank app, but don't worry, we'll build it together as quickly as possible. So we have I'm going to connect my data. So this will be on there for business. So this is good because in case you don't know how to add a connection, so this is how you do that. So my data is in Excel. It's not the ideal place, but I was having some troubles with my SharePoint list, so I'll just manage this for now. All right. So let me. Okay. So first thing, let me insert a data table just to give us an idea what we have in our data source. Okay. So that's good. Okay. All right. So just 1 minute. So can have some trouble with that. Let's try this one. All right. Great. Okay. So now we have our data. All right. So that's one disadvantage of using Excel. But Excel is a great data source. Just that it's probably better to use SharePoint. All right. So now we have our data. Let me. Okay. Just 1 minute. All right, so this is like a visualization of what I was showing before. So basically, right, we have a couple of columns, we have a couple of we have name, price, quantity on hand, and quantity on order. Now, so for instance, when we want to reference a particular, so let's insert a label. All right. All right. So from here, let's say we wanted to get the name of the first product, right? So the name of the first product. Now, so this formula, this function called first, what it does is that it returns the first record for any table or any data source, right? So in this case, our data source is products underscore one for checkers. Product is not working. So we use product underscore one. So that's our data source, right? Now, so what it does is returns it back. So what that means is that the return value, so what the formula produces for us is a record, right? So produce a record for us. Now we have to now access some properties in that record. So we talked about certain categories. You said the record represents at least one category of information. So we have multiple categories of information. So now we need one of those categories of information. It could be the name, it could be the price, it could be the quantity on hand. We just need one of them. So in this case, we could get the name. So I said in the notation for that, or the way to do that rather, is to use the dot uh, operator. So once you put dot in front, it does allow you to access the those categories of information that is for the first record in the table, right? So what are those categories? You have them as the column names. You have the name, the price, the quantity on hand, and then the quantity on order. So in this case, you want to use the name. So if you click on the name, that would give us chocolates, right? If we wanted to get the price instead, right? So that would also give us the price. So you can see how that's dot notation allows us to access, information about a particular record, right? So that is one of the ways you can go about it. Now, let's assume you wanted to represent the particular record. Okay, so let's do something. Although it's okay, let's just do something. So that's the best way to. That's how it's done. So I'm going to insert a button. So what we're going to do is that we're going to add a record to this table, right? So I'm going to add a new record. Now to do that, we can go to our on select property. So select is where you write the code to run anytime you click on the button, right? So what do you want to do? Now I'm going to write some functions now, or just one function that you may not be familiar with. We'll get to that, but the most important thing I want to show you how I can represent a particular record, right? And then use that record to my advantage to do something. So all right. All right, so this patch basically allows us to create a new record, right, in a data source, right? So now, okay, so this is out now. So remember that I said that to present the record, you have a curly brace open and closed, and then you specify the name of the columns and then the value, and then you can do that. You can continue to do that if there are other names and values separated by commas. So look at how that is done now. So for instance, you have name. So you have name. Let's say you have. Sorry. So let's say you have strawberry. So because this name field it's a string field, so you have to put in a string, right? So strawberry, right? Then you have price. So price is a number field, so you can put in just 1 minute. Please.
Okay, I think while we're waiting for Dapo to to be back. I mean, I'm sure we're following. So, I mean, tables and records in application development is actually very important. I mean, and the whole of the data manipulation part of it. And he has shown us what records mean, what fields mean, what columns mean, and was able to, I mean, demonstrate to us, show us a table, how you can come up with a table, as well as to run some functions. One of the functions that he ran was first. So what first actually does is to pick the first record within a table or a gallery, as the case may be. It was able to also pick a particular field by using the first and the dot notation. So right now it's trying to add a record to the existing table, and that is doing with the patch function. So I'm sure we're following. That was just a quick recap. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Ibrahim. Sorry, I just attempted something quickly. All right. So so this so what Ibrahim was talking about is basically I'm trying to add a new record, and as I said, this is the way we add we refer to a record, right? So we use a curly braces, we open it and then we close it basically, and inside of this we reference the name of our field, right? So of our column. So in the case is name, and then the value we want to put strawberry inside of that. Then we have another one called price, and the value is 4. We have quantity on hand, and the value is 5. Quantity on order, the value is 8. So that is basically the record we want to add to the Excel database, or to our Excel database. So I want to try to add it now. Right? So, okay, and yeah, so you can see that it has added strawberry 458. So that's because we're able to create a new record, essentially a new row. So if you want to add a new row, this is how you go about it. Don't worry about the patch function for now, but this is just what I want to focus on. This is how you reference a record. So this is, we can call it, sometimes we call this inline record, right? Because it does not have any, it was not associated with anything before. It's not associated with any table, right? We just created it on the fly and then we added it to the database. So now this is how we reference that. So if we want to reference a table, right? So suppose we wanted to reference a table. How would we go about it? So for a table, let's create something. So we'll create. Let me duplicate this. Oh, okay, I duplicated the code instead. So let me just remove this part. So let's call this add record, right? So what we'll do now is I will create a table, right? So yeah, okay, we'll create a table. So to do that, let's use the set function. This is another thing. So this function is basically what you use to set a variable, right? Although we're not talking about variables in particular now, but a variable is basically something that holds a value, right? And a value could be any type. It could be string, it could be numbers. In this case, it's going to be a table, right? This is just, so I just need to use this to drive my point. So let's say we have a table called, let's just call it new table. So how do we create a table? Now, as I said, we can create a table in several ways, right? One way you can do that is, technically, this code is already fine because we can create a table like this. What we just create is a one row table, but I want to go beyond this and just explain better. So let's assume you have a function called table, right? So let me just no, let me take this out so I don't confuse anybody. All right, so you have a function called table, right? So what table does is take in, so you know that record we created before, right? It takes in a set or a series of that same structure. So it takes in, like, maybe it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 4. So it takes in something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste what we've created before, and then we can create another one. So it's separated by comma. So if you create a record, you can add another one. Remember, a table is a collection of those records. So let's change this to Apple. So price is let's say 496. So let's say 496. That's the price. And then the quantity on hand, let's say that is 8. Quantity on hand, that is 9. So now with this, we've created a table, right? So this function will then return the table and save it in this variable, right? So let's run that. Okay, no, let me do format upsize because that helps people to see exactly what's going on. So let me just recalculate. So you are trying to create a table, right, on the fly. So this is a table that we're creating, and we're saving it into this variable. So this table has some just expects what it expects as its property or as its input rather. So this function is a record or a series of records. Let's put it that way. So a record or a series of records, right? So you could have just one record, but in this case we have two. So if you have multiple records separated by comma. So in a record, again, just like the way we've said it already, the name of the field, the value, the name of the field, the value, like that, and separated by comma. So then we have this first set, and then we have the second set. Now, what does this tell us? This tells that this is representing the first row in this table, and this is representing the second row in this table, right? So that's the way it's structured. Now, let me change this to create table. So once we do that, I change the name. All right, so create this table. Let me now let me start on that data table just to okay, so I don't know. Okay, I can't add hold on, I think I can. Let me see if I can do that. Okay, so okay, let me try something. Fine. I know whether can happen immediately. So that's because the table is being okay. Let me try something. Should be able to do that. Okay. All right. So we do have a table. However, we cannot add it as a data source. So a table is not essentially not really a data source, although it's typically we use it in other ways. So what you can use as a data source is a collection. Maybe I'll just change the code to a collection just to.
Okay, sorry, David. Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to say,
you have a question?
Okay, you've deleted the table. You've deleted the table that you inserted.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I wanted us to point the items property of it to the new table. Can we try that?
So I tried to do that, but it didn't give me that option. So let me just try it again. So I tried to do that, but it seems because I know that there's some controls only work with actual data sources.
So how about if you type? I mean, what I was. How about if we type it there?
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's correct now. So it didn't come out before, but I guess it took its time. So I just assumed it was not going to work. Okay, so yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, so this is what we've created now. So let me just reduce this. All right, so this is what I just created now. So this is the table we just created. You can see that column strawberry price is 4, quantity on that is 5, quantity on order is 5 and 8, 8 and 9, which is exactly what we did here. Can you see that? So this is how you can create a new table, right? So we've created a record, we've created a table now. So we've added the record to a table, and we've created another table. So we could also even add records to this table if we wanted to. So that's just basically the way tables and records operate. So another way of creating a table on that syntax is, although probably let me just change this one to single column. So it's a different type of table. So another way of creating a table is what you can do, right, is to do something like this. So instead of using the table function, right, instead of using the table function, let me reformat it real quick here. Okay. So instead of using the table function, right, what we can do is that we can use this square bracket. So no previously we use the curly braces. So we use the table function, and inside of the table function, we use the curly brace for the records, right? So instead of that, I just use this square brace notation. So let's say you use this, all right, and then you put in some information. So you might put in um, say orange or oranges or orange, and then you put in 4.5, you put in 8 points. Sorry, no. In this case, rather, it's single column. So single column again means that you are only talking about one category of information, one kind of information, right? So I was actually making a mistake here. So that means everything in this column must be of the same type. So let's say you have orange, you have apple, you have what else? You have mango, etc. So in this scenario now, you are creating a single column, right? So I'll go show you how that looks like. So let me just okay, so let me just delete this table for now. Okay, let me just delete it. So now I'm going to create a single column table, right? So create a single column table. Let me see if I add another table. Let's put this down here. So you see how that looks like. So let me data source. Single column table only has one field, right, or one column name, and by default it's called value. So that's what I wanted to show you. It's called value, right? So if you notice the code you wrote, I'll go back to it now. Right, so this is it. Let me expand it. It does not have any column name. It just puts in a bunch of data. You don't put any column name. So if you do this, it will create a single column table for you. So that's how you create a single column table. There are certain situations where this might be useful, and this is how that syntax works. So basically, that is records and that is tables in the basic way you create them. So this is how you generate them. So now, sorry, Ibrahim, how long do I have? Do I have
Okay,
it a 1 hour or
I
30
think,
minutes?
yeah, I think we're pressed for time, and I mean, we're just few minutes to the end of this. I think we can stop at this point to take questions. We can always continue in the next session. I mean, you've done justice to this. I mean, it's way more than this. I understand, right? So we just want to employ everyone to, I mean, let's get our hands dirty around these. I mean, there are different functions and formulas you can use, and I mean, the importance of records and tables cannot be overemphasized, right? Just like our facilitator has made us understand. So, I mean, we thank you so much. We'll just get straight to take questions, perhaps if there are any. So, I mean, let's ask questions. It might not, even if it's not around the table. I mean, just to, if you need to clear, if there's anything you need to clear, please go ahead. Chijoke, do
Hello.
you want to say something? Okay, please go ahead, bro.
Okay, yes. All right. Thank you so much, Ibro and the
David. David.
facilitator, David. I appreciate. Okay, now, uh, regarding the table creation and manipulation, I could see it's not much different from what's obtainable in SQL. Yeah, and then at least, of course, this is kind of localized to Power Apps, and of course, it also needs some understanding and learning, to tailor it to what Power Apps want. So while you were manipulating the data, the tables, you were making use of some functions, the patch, the set, and what have you. So it's not actually like a question; it's just like a request. I wouldn't know if you have a comprehensive list of functions that Power Apps makes use of while manipulating table. Maybe all those functions where I don't know if you have any, or maybe I also look out for it. But if you can help me, if you have a comprehensive list of all those functions, I would appreciate if you can share it with us. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Chijoke. I think this was from Chijoke, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
David.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I did use some functions to manipulate it as I talked about. Um, yes, we do have reference function references. Because of time, and again, we're hoping to continue more on tables and records. We're going to be talking more on those functions, definitely, especially like patch, right, and some other ones too, right. So we'll talk more on them in subsequent classes, talking about data structures, manipulation, and data records and things like that. We do have a function reference for Power Apps, right, that Microsoft provide. Um, I don't know if okay, I can share it on this class. I can drop a link to those functions, but we would also be talking about them. We'll tackle them at least in respect to tables and records in subsequent classes. So yeah, but I'll drop a link for those functions. So this is a reference to those functions.
All right, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
David,
Okay,
for
so
that. Okay,
yeah,
Fatuk. All right, thank you. Fatuk, please. You can unmute your mic.
Good evening.
All right, good evening.
Okay, sorry. Can we get a link to the recording, like the recording of this session?
Okay, definitely. We're going to do that. Yes, we'll do that.
Oh,
Okay, so
thank you.
just. Okay, is that all from you, please?
Yes, that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, any other person? Is there any other question? Okay, so in the absence of any other, I think it's we appreciate everyone for joining this call. For those who are new to Power Apps, I mean, there's a link I just dropped. You can click on it to, see previous videos. You can also go online to check, to read up on Power Apps and Power Automate, right? And we also have a community both on WhatsApp, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can join. I'm sure you will also find people to assist you one way or the other. You can also follow Dakpo on Twitter. I think, yes, I did Dakpo. You can find him on Twitter. I'll try and drop his handle, right? So, thank you everyone for joining. See you at the next session. All right. Have a nice week ahead. Bye bye. Thank you, Dakpo. We appreciate it.
okay, bye bye. Thank you for having
All
me.
right.
Yeah,
Thank you. All
all
right.
right.
Bye.